load everything you know about your boss into a persona, name the persona with your boss's name. Every email they send, if they send you articles, build this persona so that you can talk to it and prepare for that idea pitch.
Boss GPT.
Boss GPT. So that's just one example of how you customize to your own scenario.
Have I told you we've created what we call affectionately the Taylor bot?
The Taylor bot. I haven't heard about the Taylor bot.
It's technically a chat GPT, custom GPT called the GeekWire AI editor.
Oh, got it.
And it is a hard ass.
I'm sure it is.
Mark Briggs is an author, executive coach, AI strategist, and consultant based in the Seattle region. He contributes regular columns to GeekWire, and we've known Mark for many years, dating back to his longtime work as a journalism and media executive in the Seattle region. He thinks about AI deeply and in a practical way, in the simple ways that it can change how we take notes, run meetings, collect and analyze information, and make decisions. And those are going to be some of the things that we're talking about today. Hey, it's great to have you here in the office, Mark.
It's great to be here, Todd. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. So we were talking a little bit beforehand. I think maybe you might be able to give me a little bit of AI executive coaching later on.
Yeah, if you're up for it, we can do a mini coaching session. And we'll find out if there's areas of improvement for you.
Oh, trust me. Always room for improvement. And I was thinking this would be cool in part because people out there can maybe answer the questions themselves.
Right.
And you won't be able to respond to them, obviously.
Exactly.
But they can sort of go through the regime on their own. So first off, give us a sense for how AI is fitting into your executive coaching practice these days. And maybe as part of that, tell us like what kinds of executives you coach and the challenges that they face.
Yeah. Interesting time to become an executive coach, which I did in 2024, and did not plan to make AI a big part of my practice or my business. And fast forward 18 months, and it is. And part of that's because I just started using it a ton myself to build my practice, to build my venture. And as I started doing that, I learned practical and really useful ways for my clients to use it as well. But if you want to boil down executive coaching, it really comes down to human potential. So everyone has more potential than they're probably using in some area of their work, in some area of their life. An executive coach helps create a plan, the space, the accountability for you to set a goal, pursue that goal, and follow a plan. And oftentimes, what executives especially are running up against is they don't have enough time to actually exercise, actually go out to dinner with their wife or their husband, actually do the things that they really want to do. At work, they don't have time to actually work on the strategy and the really important parts of their job that they feel like are their highest priorities. So that's where AI has come in and been really useful on an individual level with my coaching practice, because one of the topics that I write about and talk about a lot is having a personal operating system. Everyone has one. And if yours hasn't been upgraded in the last year or two, there's a lot you're missing out on. And there's a lot that AI can do for you as it relates to being a better human. And I know that is sort of ChatGPT speak on a LinkedIn post, maybe sounding, but it really does make a difference. And it is all about leveraging this new technology to be better in real life.
It's interesting because part of my thinking as you're saying these things is, well, maybe ChatGPT could replace your job someday, but I would imagine that the folks you're working with are not quite that far along on the learning curve where they would jump in and say, hey, Gemini, hey, Claude, hey, ChatGPT, be my executive coach. They need help getting to that first step with AI themselves.
Yeah, but also it already exists. And any type of training or coaching is already available in an app with AI, whether you're talking about your diet or your personal training, or you can do it with AI today. The difference is I feel like I have job security because every 2 weeks, Todd, when we get on the phone together and I say, so how'd it go this week? You don't have to look another human in the eye if you're just using an app and say, well, gosh, last week was crazy. And I hear that all the time. So I do believe that as I'm using AI, it has made me a better coach. It has accelerated, obviously, the growth of my business, which I'd love to talk about too, because I think that is a big surprise for me, how much this has enabled new ideas to be tested and be developed faster. So I do feel like the AI that I'm using and I'm aware of is powering human growth in different ways with my clients, with me personally, and then with my company and my business.
You used the phrase earlier, personal operating system, and this has been the subject of one of the columns that you wrote for GeekWire as well. What is a personal operating system? And can you give me a sense for how AI is changing that and why people need to take a new look at their own personal operating systems?
Sure. Everyone who works in information has a way that they manage that information. So in meetings, you take notes, or you now have AI take those notes. You have projects and tasks. You have a to-do list every day. You have all these different types of action items, potential knowledge storage repository. I mean, everybody's got all these apps probably spread all over the place. When I started my venture a couple years ago, I took everything from Evernote, OneDrive, OneNote, Asana, the Notes app on my iPhone. I had stuff everywhere. And I put it all into Notion. And I know you know that I'm a huge Notion geek. And while it didn't have AI at the time, and that wasn't the reason that I moved everything into it, it was just to simply consolidate everything and to streamline my personal operating system. And now that they've added AI and it's gotten really good, it has opened up all kinds of possibilities that I had no idea were going to be there when I moved everything into it 2 years ago.
Notion, for folks who don't know, I tended over the years to think of it like a note-taking app, like a replacement for Evernote, but it's really more of a personal data repository these days.
And has become a really powerful team hub. So a lot of startups in Silicon Valley are using it, and probably here in the Seattle area as well. You can manage all of your documentation and all of your otherwise organizational content in Notion, and it's all now powered by AI. So you get that connection, you get that visibility. You can ask questions of your organizational content without having to spend a lot of time looking for it. Now, on a personal level, that's awesome because, for example, I have all of my client notes as I'm doing my sessions with clients in a Notion page. At the end of 6 months, we'll do a wrap up and then hopefully renew. And at the end of that 6 months, I will ask Notion to give me the key areas of growth, the key takeaways from this 6 months. And it does it really, really well. So it's just analyzing my notes. It's not hallucinating because it doesn't have access to the internet because I've turned that off. And so it just saves me time and actually helps me find insights that I wouldn't have otherwise found. So back to the personal operating system, as I'm helping a client with a goal, and I got to tell you, I've got more than one client whose goals include date night. That is a big KPI, right? So if I'm feeling like, back to the human potential phrase, I'm not really fulfilling my potential if I can't actually go on a date with my spouse or partner. Okay, so that's the downstream outcome that someone wants from hiring an executive coach. And I love that as a goal. When we go upstream and figure out what's blocking, what's preventing that from happening, often it comes down to a personal operating system that can be streamlined. So what are the ways that we can use AI to save time, to help you do your job better, and to get things done so that you have that capacity to have date night?
I love that. And I want to get into that a little later on because I actually had an interesting experience this past week that spoke to how AI is helping me get things done and avoid procrastination. But let's talk about that in a second, because one of the things that I can imagine is a challenge is specific vendor lock-in. And you mentioned Notion, but obviously a lot of people, their emails in Google, or it might be in Microsoft 365, and you've got stuff at work, you've got stuff at home. You might be putting a calendar on Amazon Alexa. I mean, stuff is all over the place, and not everybody might have the luxury of the freedom to choose something like Notion to put all their corporate data into. So how do you grapple with those challenges with your clients? And are there practical solutions, or is it just kind of like, yeah, that's a known issue at this point?
It's what really makes this version of software in our lives so different than previous versions of software in our lives. When you got Microsoft Word or Google Docs, there was one way to use it. And if you didn't know, there was a handbook. Now, it doesn't come with a playbook or a handbook or an owner's manual because it depends on what you can use, what you are using, what you have used, and what you need to do. So it's so subjective. But I'll give you an example so that you can see where I go if someone is constrained, right? Yeah. So I have a big corporate client. He got promoted into this job where they consolidated 2 different divisions. Biggest role of his life. He is absolutely overwhelmed. He's got a whole team of people that know him well and love him. He's got a whole team of people that he just took over who don't know him and don't trust him. It's a tough place for an executive to be. He's got a boss who wants the goals and objectives for the next quarter, and the boss wants them now. So he's in a Microsoft environment. So even though I don't work in a Microsoft environment, I know enough about using these tools to say, well, put in what you know your boss wants, build this sort of grounded repository of data, and then query it and talk to it until it can help you flesh out those goals and objectives. And he did it, and it saved him so much time. He kept looking for that 4-hour block of time on his calendar where he was going to be able to really deep dive into this the way he used to do. And it just didn't exist anymore. He was able to do this in between meetings and calls and actually get it done without even having to block time for it. So in the end, he was able to have date night, which is the goal, but he's also enabled to do his job better and learn how now, the next time he goes to do this process, he's already got something to build upon. And I see that over and over again. I know you've experienced that too. Like when you use it a little bit, now you've got that experience to step back onto. And so you're building this little foundation brick by brick. So 6 months later, you're like, hey, I already have all this. I know how to use this. And so it's just that much easier to see the opportunity.
So there's a couple different things here, because just to give you an example for me, I tend to do things and collect files on a project by project basis. So I'll have a folder on my desktop and I might upload those PDFs into Notebook LM for one specific task, or into Gemini for another, or ChatGPT for another. But like I am a hoarder of digital information in a structured way, and in a what I would think a logical way. And if anything, AI has made me more of a seeker of data and files and raw things that I can put into the LLM. But what you're describing is a little bit more amorphous in that it's more built into the enterprise data of the company, or, might be queryable from Microsoft 365 or from Gemini. Like, how much are you seeing people need to gather and put together specific information for specific projects and then query the AI versus just being able to have the data at their beck and call for the query?
It changes the way you go about your data, your information, because in the future, I believe strongly that everyone will have a personal LLM that will be that repository of everything that you want to interact with. Because AI is such a wonderful connection generator, right? You had a project 2 years ago that connects to this project you did last week. You don't remember that, but AI can surface that for you if everything is in a connected system. I also believe that every company, every team, every organization is going to have their own LLM. Whatever that looks like, right? It's connected documents with AI underneath as plumbing, and it allows you to ask questions of all of your information in a much more efficient way and ask questions that you never would have before. So when I do these AI workshops, which again, accidental business opportunity that I didn't see coming, but people keep asking me, hey, can you do an AI workshop? And I'm always like, sure. The one slide that people's eyebrows go up and people would say, oh my God, is research that AWS and Asana did that I heard on an HBR podcast last year, that people, information workers, spend 84 minutes a day looking for the information they need to do their job.
That's 6 minutes short of an hour and a half. I mean, that is like a lot of time.
And I've asked people in these workshops, raise your hand if you think that's low. And people say, yeah, that might be low. So thinking about that, you tend to steer your information into new places and new ways of doing this, because in the end, the goal would be, okay, all of my information is here, and now I can just query it. For example, as I was putting some notes together for today's conversation, I remember the 84-minute stat. I didn't remember exactly where it came from, but all I had to do was ask my little Notion AI, hey, where'd that come from? And there it is.
And a couple key points there, because first off, you're confident in that in part because it's querying your data.
And it gives me a link to that page.
Right. That's one of the things that I love about Gemini and also Notebook LM is the attribution, the citations, and the ability to very quickly call up the source of the information to verify it. That is huge. And that's also interesting because, you know, you're using Notion, and I wonder, like, some of this stuff is just, it feels like it's still evolving.
Yeah.
It's still evolving. And so in that way, it's hard to figure out like where you jump in, because for me personally, I can envision a place where like Microsoft is baking this stuff into Windows, or Apple is baking it into OS 10, you know, the operating system.
Yeah.
Is that what Mac operating systems are called these? Is it still OS 10?
No, I think they're doing
Mac
those
OS,
crazy names, right?
Mac OS, sorry.
Sierra,
Wow.
whatever.
I just revealed myself as a Windows geek. Anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like at some point, the technology is just going to keep evolving and evolving. And I wonder, like, is it really even worth jumping in at this point if somewhere down the road, this software is just going to handle all of this grunt work of, note taking and all this stuff for you?
Here's the catch. As I'm looking across the table here, a guy with a remarkable tablet.
Yes.
How much of that remarkable tablet is in a repository that can be AI enabled?
Yeah, and not much. To be able to do it, it does text recognition, but
your handwriting's so bad.
No, I just don't go through the extra step of converting.
That was a bad assumption.
No,
but that was I had a client who about 4 months ago gave up her remarkable tablet as she admitted to me, my handwriting is so bad, the text recognition doesn't work, so I'm actually getting no benefit from these notes that I'm taking.
So maybe we can get into the mini executive coaching session after the break. But before we do that, like, are there one or two things that are just habits that somebody listening to this podcast should really think about to really position themselves to take better advantage of these AI tools?
Yeah, I would say start with consolidation. And when you have notes in different apps all over the place, all over your phone, and you can find one platform that has, you know, AI underneath to move stuff into, whether it's Google or, you know, OneNote or Notion. I don't have experience with OneNote to know how elegant that solution is. I do know that there's a ton of other options out there. And as long as you're using something that you know, everything is going to be connected. So it can actually make those connections for you and give you that. It's about knowing more about what you know.
Yeah.
Like our memories are not good. And I speak from someone who has a really bad memory. And AI is constantly telling me stuff that I didn't know, but it's stuff that I already wrote. Like, I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. Oh, I wrote that. Okay.
Consolidation, getting those notes in a scannable form, in a form that AI can digest in one fell swoop and not have to go to OneDrive and Google Drive and all over the place, let alone your own hard drive on your computer.
You wouldn't believe the number of executives that I work with who are still have folders in OneDrive with Word docs and PowerPoints in them. And that is the modern version of their operating system.
Okay. You just described to me, so I feel seen and a little embarrassed. And I think it's a perfect segue into the mini coaching session that we talked about. Okay. So we'll do that when we come back. You're listening to GeekWire. Check out the new season of Does Compute. It's a great podcast from Carnegie Mellon's School of Computer Science and GeekWire Studios. It explores how computer science is building useful stuff that works. It covers innovations shaping healthcare, AI, climate solutions, and more, featuring top experts. Does Compute reveals real-world impacts, no coding required. Download the podcast or watch the Season 2 videos at geekwire.com/doescompute. Welcome back. I'm talking this week with Mark Briggs, an author, an executive coach, AI strategist, longtime consultant based in the Seattle region. So, Mark, I love the files on my desktop. I have this great little Windows widget called Fences.
Okay.
I can show it to you here. It's like it organizes all the folders. Does this just give you nightmares? I wish people could see this.
No, it's just like a flashback to 2005.
But look, it's like I can. It's this really cool thing where you can like make it go away if you want. It's this app. I paid $30 for this app, Mark.
And how do you ask questions of all of your information?
I go into one of those folders, I take 10 at a time, and I put them into Gemini or ChatGPT or Notebook LM based on my individual project that I'm working on. And that is the problem. It's very project story specific. And for some applications that works, right? For some scenarios that works. But where I run into the problem is like, okay, wait, I need to know what the project manager on our website redevelopment said about this. Did that happen in Slack or email, or was it on Firefly's recorded conversation? And that's, part of the problem too is everybody's got their own dang web video thing. Whether you've got Teams or Meet or whatever. I mean, that's a whole other problem. At any rate, I don't mean to go too far before getting into the coaching session. So tell me, what are some of the questions you would ask someone like me in an executive coaching session?
I would start with, what is something that you wish you were doing right now, this week, this month, that you're not doing?
Oh, working out every morning.
Okay. And that's a pretty common response.
Yes.
Okay. So what is one reason that you don't work out every morning?
News tends to happen on an East Coast schedule for us. And so that means that if I'm actually doing my job well, 6 a.m. is a late start.
Okay. So then that might not be the best time of day to work out.
Exactly. Although, it would be nice if I could get going at 5 a.m. and have a break at 8 a.m. to go work out. That might be a good thing. And then, that kind of rhythm is a good rhythm for me.
Right. Okay. And then from a work perspective, what is a task that you think takes too long or you'd like to delegate?
A task that takes too long or I'd like to delegate. Well, I keep coming back to this because it's top of mind, but we're currently working on a refresh of our website, and I've been on our side more of the coordinator, working with an outside project manager at our outside development firm. That is one task that I would love to delegate to somebody else on the team, and frankly, probably should have early on. And the reason I want to be able to delegate that is that I would like to be able to focus more on reporting and writing. I mean, that is, to boil it all down for you, Mark, I mean, everything that's not reporting and writing, I would love to delegate to somebody else.
Okay. So the project management, what software platform are you using for that?
We're using, Fireflies.ai is the note taker that the project manager at the outside developer uses. So we're using Fireflies, although that's not a project management so much as it is a note taker. I'm not using a project management tool as part of that, like Asana or Trello. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
of?
And Notion can do that too. So that's one of the advantages of Notion is it can be project management or CRM. It can be all these different things, but we're not moving your whole operation into Notion. I do think, though, there's efficiency to be gained. Anytime you're doing a project without it like having a project management infrastructure with assignments and deadlines and progress, then you're wasting time looking for what's next, where are we? And a lot of the teams that I work with, comes from a lot of modern management research. Teams spend way too much time in meetings trying to figure out where they are in relation to the goal. So they've all agreed on a goal, and now where are we to that goal, and where are we getting that information? Let's have the debate about, is that the right information? Sorry, that's a tangent, but coming back up to what we were talking about, if you have clear visibility and clarity into status on different tasks with this project of launching a new website, then you're going to have a lot less time spent looking for where are we on that.
So what would you do in that scenario? Would you pick a project management tool, or could you use off-the-shelf chatbots, LLMs, to manage something like that?
I would use something that's AI enabled And if you want to stay in the Google atmosphere, universe, find something that connects with Google, which pretty much everything does.
Yeah.
So you could use Asana, you could use something like it, and find a way to have it connected to all the content that you need to access, so that there is, again, that streamlining of not only task and information, but the actual work product that you're dealing with.
Lately, my big thing has been, I've suddenly had this realization, because we use Google Apps and Google Workspace, and so it's a Gmail interface, for work. And then I realized that the Google Tasks integration is actually very nice with that. And it's changed the way I manage email. So rather than like starring something or coming back to it later in the inbox, I actually go for inbox 0. And the way I do that is, if I need to respond to something and I can't do it in the moment, I hit the add to tasks thing and it goes off to the sidebar.
Yeah.
So that's been a real game changer for me. And some of the things you're talking about, like Microsoft 365 Copilot, Satya Nadella had this really fascinating demo that he put out there this past week about the questions you can ask of your data. But it really seems like it's those multiple parts. It's like fitting together all the different software and fitting together the data, having the data in the right place. And I know you're big on Notion, but I'd almost be concerned about like being too locked in to one thing.
Oh, absolutely. So that's why I got on a plane last fall and went to the Notion conference, so I could meet the people in person.
Yeah.
As I moved my entire life into their platform, I wanted to make sure they were going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
And turns out they are. They're going to be fine. I agree. There's really two things that I ask people to think through when choosing the next tool or deciding how to implement AI. One is speed and one is trust. Is this saving you time? And can you trust it? So in your example of how you're doing email now, that is a perfect example of how you streamlined your personal operating system, right? So that saved you time. Not time that is demonstrable probably, but it accrues over time and accumulates. So what I would have suggested, going all the way back to the beginning of our little coaching session here, is that we would have spent time digging into your project around the website and found some opportunities to streamline, potentially using AI and a project management tool, so that any discussion you're having is shorter. You're actually maybe even having less meetings because there's more visibility.
Yeah.
I can tell you one of my favorite tools, a Seattle company, is called Read AI. And what they have done, and David Shim, the CEO, has a lot of great examples on his LinkedIn for what you can do with their tool to build this corpus of knowledge that then speeds up the onboarding, speeds up training. It's incredible how when you start opening up your mind to what it can do and where it will go. So one of my favorites is the fact that I talked to their vice president of operations a few months ago, Kate, and she said that she doesn't go to some of the product meetings because she can just query the Read repository afterwards and say, did the product launch date for Brazil get moved? And it'll be up to date. That saved her 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, who knows? So in corporate America, I guarantee you there are people right now sitting in meetings waiting for that one piece of information. They could be doing something else and get that one piece of information somewhere else. But it's about the mindset, and it's about, being more than just curious. It's about human potential. Going back to that, is there an outcome that I want here? For you, working out every day, right? For some of my clients, date night. That's why you start using this stuff, because it's going to give you that outcome that is tangible, that's going to help you as a human being. It's not about just being a geek and finding the new, latest, greatest, version of ChatGPT and some party trick you can do with it. It's really about making a difference offline in real life.
Very interesting. Okay, Mark, the two questions you asked me were, one,
what are you not doing that you wish you could?
Okay, so working out. And then two,
what is something at work that you wish you could delegate?
Okay, everything basically was the answer to that. And then, are there more questions, or are those are the fundamental threshold questions?
That was getting us into then digging into the project management around the website.
Got it. So that's how you would do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, I know you've been using both human and virtual assistants. I want to talk about that when we come back. And plus, I want to tell you a little bit about an experience that I had this past week that was kind of a breakthrough moment for me personally in the realm of AI. So we'll do that when we come back. You're listening to GeekWire. Welcome back. It's Todd Bishop with Mark Briggs. Mark, I want to talk a little bit about your experience with AI assistants, and I think you might have a little bit of a bot or not test for me. So let's do that in a sec. But I had a moment this week that really kind of opened my eyes and made me realize, hey, this actually is different. Because, sometimes you feel like you're banging your head against the same problems over and over again with different tools. But for me, the existence of the AI tools as a kind of collaborator has taken away a level of procrastination on individual stories that I used to have. And so just as an example, to reference some of the news from this past week, I've been working for the past couple weeks on a story about Paul Allen's new foundation, or the foundation created by the Paul G. Allen estate, $3.1 billion science and technology fund that they just announced this past week. I had caught, sort of early rumor about it, and so got in the loop and was able to be one of the first to break the news. But in the past, I will admit, I would have waited until the day before to start working on that story. And the AI tools have gotten me so engaged with the process of synthesizing, understanding, and kind of processing the data that I'm like eager to say, hey, here's this transcript of this interview that I just did. Like, what are your key takeaways? Oh, what are the best quotes? Help me understand what she meant when she said this. And like, it's, there are these sort of iconic journalistic duos out there, of course, Woodward and Bernstein are the classic ones, but like Mateer and Ross at the San Francisco Chronicle, this is like real journalism.
Yeah, for sure.
Way in the weeds on some of this stuff. And I feel like with the AI, I have this kind of partner, this sounding board. And, the words are mine in the end, but it's this process that I can go through that I feel like some of those classic duos might have had. And the aha moment for me was Microsoft had a huge news event on Tuesday afternoon where a group of people broke into the office of Brad Smith, the Microsoft president. And I had to jump up from my desk at 3:00 on Tuesday afternoon and get over to Redmond to cover that press conference that they had at 4. And I realized on the drive over there, in years past, I would have been panicking because I wouldn't have had the Paul Allen story basically done. And because of the AI,
there you go.
Just the way it changed my own motivation and took away my procrastination, I got a full night's sleep on Tuesday night. Was able to
always a good sign.
Yeah, wake up that Wednesday morning and put some finishing touches on it for half an hour and on the Allen story. And so for me, that was a big breakthrough moment.
The mindset shift of having immediate feedback or immediate brainstorming, immediate thought partnership is huge. And I talk to people all the time that have had a similar light bulb moment. And in my workshops, one of the recommendations that seems to respond the best is something from Wes Cow. Wes Cow is the founder of Maven.com, and she's well known for being one of the leading executive communication practitioners. She has these courses that you can take if you're an executive and you want to become a clearer communicator, more effective communicator. And so she has some really good tips on how to use AI to do that. So this is about, in the real world communication, but you use AI for it. And one that I love and I use all the time is you write out your email or a proposal, or you're asking someone to do something, and then you put it into your favorite AI tool and you ask them, what's the most obvious objection to this?
What's the most obvious objection to this email that I just drafted?
Yeah, and the acronym is MOO. So it's easy to remember.
Most obvious objection.
Yes, MOO, MOO. And you will not be surprised how often something is flagged by the AI that you're like, oh, okay, right? I mean, just this week I was sending a proposal to a client, for a new project, and I've got all this great data and information in there and links and this and that, and I put it in there, and the most obvious objection was, it's way too long. Like, get to the point. And I needed that, right? And it happened in 10 seconds. So now that that's available to me, I've now forced myself to say, you've got 10 seconds, right? You can go get that one more piece of feedback. And that's really helpful. Now, if you want to segue into
Yes.
the assistants.
Yeah, so you're using both human and AI assistants.
Correct. So just before I came over here, I sent another proposal to a human assistant for review. And what's interesting, and I remember the conversation you had with Aaron Levy of Box and how he talked about the more they have employed AI, the more ideas they've come up with,
Yep.
and the more work there is to do.
Yes.
That has happened for me, little solopreneur guy here who launched a new venture a year ago. Now I have 5 people, human people working for me, and I've also made 5 custom GPTs. And so I would love to read a couple of the personas to you.
Perfect.
And have you guess which one is on the human team human, and which one's on team robot. You up for this?
Yes, absolutely. And we at GeekWire, we would call this bot or not.
Okay, this is bot or not. All right. Sorry to turn the tables on you here.
No, that's good. It's perfect. So this is a persona.
Correct.
And it's going to be either a human or an AI assistant.
Yeah. Actually, I'll read you both, and
Okay.
you pick which is which. There's
Got
one
it.
of each.
Perfect.
Okay? So, number 1, Laura has experience managing marketing and communications projects within one of Microsoft's internal venture studios. With Microsoft, she led internal and external communications through newsletter creation, podcast production, videography, event management, and contests. She managed websites, rebranding, naming, and community management. Number 2, Corey has co-founded and worked for tech startups in product strategy and marketing after studying at Stanford. She served on the leadership team for an innovative SaaS company acquired by Google in 2024.
Well, given that Laura had a Microsoft pedigree, I've got to choose Laura as the human.
You are right.
You're right. It's a little bit.
Your hometown bias, is that what we're doing?
Well, no, just that Corey was a little more generic. It was a little more.
It is, exactly.
So, but that is effectively the persona that you've defined.
Correct.
For the custom GPT.
Yep.
How does it work?
Pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I will test it in that GPT. You know, depending on what I'm doing, there's a different use case, right? So I have, like I said, I have 5 humans. So having custom GPTs and robotic assistants did not actually reduce my need.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be hiring 5 people at this point. They're all project people, you know, working a few hours a week.
Yeah.
So this isn't like I'm suddenly having an empire. But at the same time, the ideas that I was able to flesh out using my AI tools and my AI assistants led to creations of business models and business lines that I'm exploring now that I needed human help with.
How do you decide when something comes up whether to go bot or human with a specific task or question or project?
It just depends on the case, right? I mean, I sent a proposal to Laura today, right before I came over here.
Laura, the real person.
Laura, the real person. But in the email, I will take the email when I'm sending the proposal to the prospective client, and I'll take that email and I'll put it into ChatGPT and say, Moo, what's the most obvious objection?
That's good.
So for everyone out there, here's a practical way you can use a custom GPT in whichever, platform you happen to like. Create one for your boss. Load everything you know about your boss into a persona. Name the persona with your boss's name. Every email they send, if they send you articles, build this persona so that you can talk to it and prepare for that idea pitch. I have an idea for boss. So, hey, boss, this is my idea. What does boss think?
Boss GPT.
Boss GPT. So that's just one example of how you customize to your own scenario.
I love that. Have I told you we've created what we call affectionately the Taylor bot?
The Taylor bot. I haven't heard about the Taylor bot.
It's technically a chat GPT, custom GPT called the GeekWire AI editor.
Oh, got it.
And it is a hard ass.
I'm sure it is. I have Eddie the editor as a custom GPT to edit things that I write. It's based on Strunk and White and,
yes,
Roy Peter Clark and all the people that I, learned from in my journalism career, who can't be here in the room with me and respond in 5 seconds, but Eddie sure can.
So we've used this. Taylor and I tested it out for a while, and I've kind of gone away from it a bit, but it's really good at the specific parameters we gave it. And one of them was clarity. Another was length. This story is 1,200 words. Couldn't you do it in 700 or 500? Come on, buddy.
Exactly. That's so funny.
Your prose isn't that great. I will tell you, that one of my favorite queries across the different chatbots is what you just alluded to, and that is, edit this like Strunk and White.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And for people who aren't familiar, it's a book called The Elements of Style. It's particularly popular among journalists because it emphasizes economy of words, omit needless words. And it's amazing how effective that actually is in combination with an AI tool, because AI can be verbose.
Absolutely.
And if you tell it to edit like Strunk and White,
yeah,
it goes the other direction.
Exactly. Yeah. That's awesome.
This is great, Mark. So I feel like I've got some really good takeaways, moo, consolidate. Like I've got some action items coming out of this that perhaps will have me lifting weights.
There you go. That's the goal, right?
So any other key things that you would leave people with?
I will tell you that the one tool that still to this day, now here we are, almost fall of 2025, that I continue to tell people about that they haven't heard of and haven't used, maybe they've heard of it but don't use it, is Perplexity. And Perplexity, in my workshops, in leadership summits I've done, I constantly get the feedback, Perplexity is my new best friend.
Okay. Perplexity is a search engine, but it's an AI search engine.
It is the best version of Google plus ChatGPT, is the easiest way to describe it. And it just summarizes better. It has links to sources so you can verify. It's real time. It really, really changes the way you think about doing your day, because every little question that comes into your head, you now can answer. And I'm talking about the smallest little software tricks. I'm talking about what to make for dinner. I'm talking about, I found a locksmith with Perplexity this week. It comes with ratings. It summarizes everything so fast. But the best part of it is you actually get to ask longer questions of it than you ever would in Google. So I listened to the CEO on a podcast not too long ago, and he said that the average query is over 10 words because people are asking, they're searching differently. So again, mindset shift. One of the questions that I always point to in my workshops is a question I asked it back in the spring when I was thinking about buying a new house. And the question was, how much has the real estate market changed in the last 7 years? Okay, that is an afternoon in Google, right? You're clicking, you're reading, you're highlighting, No, that's a 5-second query on Perplexity with links to sources. So it changes the way you think about how to answer the questions that come to you during the day, whether they're work-related or not. And I will just tell you, 100x more feedback on Perplexity than anything I have in my workshops.
Okay, very good. Now, and we could keep going on and on because that everything you're saying leads to more questions. But how do you then integrate that with Notion?
So it's just a separate tool.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will be working on something in Notion and need to answer a question or find some research or, investigate an idea.
Would you ever copy paste a Perplexity response into Notion, or is that
possibly?
A little too wonky?
But probably not.
Wouldn't it be nice if those were consolidated?
I'm not sure that it's necessary.
Okay.
If you start using it, you'll get the sense of how it is. It's sort of a one-off. It helps you keep moving forward on whatever you're working on in whatever app you're working on. So you don't have to, think, oh, well, I would continue working on this if I knew the answer to this question.
Yes.
No, you do know the answer to this question. It's just right there, which goes back to my original point, which is the overriding theme of all of the work that I'm doing now, which is there is a better way to do what you're doing or answer the questions you have today than there was yesterday. And if you're not taking the time and having the motivation to figure out what that is, you will. You're either going to do it today or you will eventually do it. So why not today?
Mark Briggs, that's a great note to end on. Thank you very much for taking the time. For people who want to know about your work, obviously Mark Briggs on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and my website is markbriggs.org. And happy to connect.
Great. All right, that is Mark Briggs. Thanks for listening, everybody. Curt Milton edited this episode. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop. We'll be back next week with a new episode of the GeekWire podcast.